know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
For the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion of the world.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of Rights and Wrongs of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green. Thank you for your time and tuning in. I do appreciate it. And I want to say publicly, Zantara, thank you. I'm glad that it sounds much better. And we are talking about the microphone because of the attempt that I tried twice with the newer one. It just wasn't working out. This I will agree. The previous microphone worked out a whole lot better. Although I'm still in the market for another mic, just for future's sake. But I'm glad that this is a little bit more tolerable to deal with, rather than hearing every single thing that's creeping along in the background with papers and people walking and water and the pipes and all that stuff like that. So we are back to a reasonable audio setup, at least for the time being, until I change it around again. And now that we've gone through my audio setup, what do we have going on here? Because, you know, the audio setup thing does tie into why these are being released like that. Because as I stated in the previous episode, I had done a good portion of one, but I just could not release that. I was like, this isn't good. The audio was crap, so I essentially just decided to do it all over again. So it did rewind me a little bit to set me back. So now we are playing catch up. That's basically what it comes down to. So even though I'm going to be talking about a WoW episode that probably aired maybe 2 weeks from the time that I'm talking about it, I will be speaking of some recent events going on, maybe within 24 hours of me recording this. So, you know, just bear with the jumps in time and what have you. So, you have been more or less warned. Just bear with me for a little while, you know. We are leaning into what I was finding as a surprising show on a couple of occasions. I mean, not a couple of occasions, but on a couple of fronts. It's kind of like the one that I got last week, where the show was relatively good, but at the same time, it's like, well, that's it. So I know. I'm pretty sure somebody said, "Wow!" Like, well, God damn it! What is it going to take to make you happy? But you know, yeah, it's. I just thought that them going into the Vegas thing, I would have been seeing more matches per episode. It just didn't feel that way. But we'll get to all of that stuff as time rolls through. No need to rush that just yet. Let us take in account, you know, or enjoy the road to get into the review. And part of that road of getting to the review is doing the news, views, and updates. So let's hit that right now. And what is going on in the news of women's pro wrestling right now? Well, it's a couple of things, actually. So let's give this a quick start. Kelly Kincaid. Some people I'm sure most people would know her from her WWE tenure. However, there are some that may remember her from back in the day when she was Quinn McCade. Quinn McKay, sorry. And that was when she was with the other version of Ring of Honor. Nominally there as a interviewer, but she did have a couple of matches. In fact, not just her interviewer persona, but even when she got into gear as a wrestler, it was like her gimmick was the cute / sexy girl with the glasses. Like the glasses became the trademark while she was there. In WWE, I don't remember her wearing those at all. But in any case, she has posted that she, as of February 14th, Valentine's Day, she will no longer be with WWE. So, no, there's my tablet. Anyway, we're not going to worry about that. I will move that along someplace so it doesn't keep chiming and doing off in the background. But no, she is. That was pretty much the post. It just states that, and that's it. There is no other. Thank you for your time, and I thank the WWE. This, that. I didn't see any of that. I just, as of February 14th, I will no longer be under contract with WWE. Now, what does that lead to at this point? Is a good question. Will she want to stay in the wrestling industry? Will she decide that, hey, I just don't want to be in WWE. Let me go to AEW or, do their version of Ring of Honor or MLW or TNA or wherever. I don't know if that is something that she really has the need or want to do anymore. She's done this for a long time. I mean, if she were to just stop right now, she would have accomplished a lot. And I think that is something to keep in perspective there. So lots of luck to her. That's all I can say. To Quinn McKay, wherever she is, whatever she's doing, lots of luck. If she decides to land on somebody else's wrestling program. Oh, for that matter, who's to say that she wants to continue with wrestling? She might want to, take that resume and move on to ESPN or something like that. Who knows? So the statement stands. Lots of luck. Hope that she finds whatever it is she's doing, and maybe she just wants to sit around and be with her child. Because as I understand, she had a child recently, 2024. So she got a 1-year-old by now. So I'm sure that might play into whatever decision that she is going to have, whether she's going to, hey, I'm going to jump right back into working or not. And I know how it is, especially when you got kids that age. Because believe me, you got a finite window with your kids to enjoy them at that age. And I don't mean just specifically one. I just mean when they're kids. When the world is wondrous to them, and you're Superman or Superwoman to them. When you got about a good 10 years or so of that. The rest of that time they're grown. They're getting up there. They're making their own decisions and starting. So it may be that she just wants to enjoy that. I'm speculating, obviously, but I'm just saying I would imagine that would come into play within some of her decisions. Chelsea Green. There had been a comment that was made about Chelsea Green on WWE's Unreal program. Now, I'll be the first one to say, unless somebody brings up something that happens to happen on Unreal, it's not a show that I'm going out of my way to watch. I don't care about Unreal. The WWE does plenty to let you know that all this that we do is make-believe. And if it's not in Unreal, then it's LFG. If it's not in LFG, then it's every other backstage media scrum that they do. I do want a little bit of the magic still there. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we get it. it's a show, and they love parading that around. We're the best show on TV, and I understand, but enough with the look at what we did and how great we are when we do our creative. I mean, yeah, we're going to look at it. We're going to watch the creative and critique or enjoy or whatever the case would be. That's fine. But enough. I pretty much skip Unreal because I don't want to sit there and see them from start to finish talk about how they did their angle and the genius of it all. I tried. I just, just didn't catch me. It is not like watching somebody who's putting a film together. I know they would like to think that, but it ain't like watching, the old documentaries of this is how we did Independence Day, or, here's Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and Heat. It ain't that. But in any case, so it's got brought up to my attention, and it's been floating around a little bit, that a comment was made on the Unreal program on Netflix that Chelsea Green is not a top girl, which she did respond to. But I will say this, and I think that is probably a little unfair. Well, not just a little, it's very unfair. Yeah, there are some people that you would probably look at and like, I don't know if they will make it as a top person. I get that. Because there are some people that just, for whatever reasons, may have something that works against them. And what that company, what that promotion, what the fans, or whatever want at that particular time. Some people's timing is just wrong. Getting there when the desire for their body type, personality, character, charisma, whatever, is just passed by, or it hasn't arrived yet. So there's a lot of different reasons why, you get some people who do not become a top guy or a top girl. However, to say that Chelsea Green is not a top girl, I think is come on. All right, is she Charlotte Flair? No, but she doesn't have to be Charlotte Flair. And who's to say that she's not going to just grow into where the crowd wants to see her as a champion? I'm pretty sure she pretty much nails whatever it is that she's throwing out, given as it is right now anyway. Why wouldn't she be a top girl? Why wouldn't she be able to get the attention? Why wouldn't she get the opportunity for that? Especially in a company where you've got 3 or 4 different women's championships. You got an Evolve Women's Championship. You got an NXT Women's Championship, a SmackDown, and a Raw. Never mind that you got 2 secondary Women's Championships underneath that, which, yes, she did become United States champion. But why wouldn't she? I'm pretty sure there are many people that if you asked about them in their first, let's say, 5 years of being in WWE, there's a good chunk of them that made it to the top that I know would have never gotten that nod of approval within those first 5 years. And I know the WWE can't even remotely honestly say that, well, we knew that The Miz was going to be a WWE champion one day. Come on. Did you? Did you look at Jeff Hardy circa 1995 and say that guy's going to be one of our top merchandise sellers of all, at the time? Guys like that. JBL. Who knew that he was going to turn around and be one of their better world champions? I'm sure they didn't think it was going to, well, they might have thought it at the time. I know they wanted it to happen, but APA JBL wasn't going to do it, but APA Bradshaw, let's be specific here. That probably wasn't going to do it, but JBL did. Some people are just timing and a change of gimmick or inspiration away from getting there. So to label someone, her in particular, as not a top girl, I personally find ridiculous. But Chelsea also had a response to that as she was on a podcast. She was on a podcast episode called Reality Check. And this was her response. Okay, this is tea, ladies, because I have not done media since this came out. This really, really ruffled some feathers on one of the head producers of WWE. His name is Michael Hayes. He works very closely with our boss, Triple H, and he's basically on Unreal said Chelsea makes the most out of her time, so we don't need to give her 30 minutes. We give her 30 seconds and she does the same work, which is great because she's not meant to be here for 30 minutes. She's not meant to be the top girl. She's meant to elevate all those girls to be in that top position to be a main eventer. It's crazy because I'm a self-aware human being. So I know my kind of place on the totem pole in this fake hierarchy that is wrestling. But to actually hear it, to actually hear that there was a ceiling put on me, is different. You can't help but be pissed off and a little upset and just aggravated at the fact that you thought that maybe there was a chance that there wasn't that ceiling, that maybe it was all in your head. And then it was confirmed. And it wasn't confirmed to me, it was confirmed on national television. I would imagine that would be very irritating and hurtful. Again, to say that she's not that is one thing. I mean, maybe I needed to be in the room. Maybe I need to go watch that episode to see if he said anything else underneath that or how he said it. I don't know. But to say that she's not a top girl is one thing. Whether he believes that she has the window to become a top girl is another. And if anybody in that room should be saying that, well, you know, she might be able to make it if she works at it, it should be Triple H. Because again, you know, as talented as he was when he walked in as Hunter Hearst Helmsley, I'm sure no one looked at Hunter Hearst Helmsley and said that guy's going to be a world champion. I mean, I'm just talking about the gimmick of Hunter Hearst Helmsley. I don't think anybody saw that and was like, yeah. Now, in the era of Cartoon Land WWE, he might have got close, but I doubt that was going to happen. And then you move on to the other portion of his career and legacy where, okay, yeah, he started to show the talent when he became Triple H, but then he was underneath two top guys that happened to occupy the space at the same time, Austin and The Rock. And Triple H, for as good as he might have been, was just underneath them. Until basically he willed him. Sorry about that. I just hit my cord. But until he basically willed himself into becoming a main event guy. And who's to say that Chelsea Green will not will herself into being a main event guy? Everybody's not going to fall into it like Daniel Bryan. I mean, that was probably about as kismet as it could possibly be. I mean, yeah, I think even he said it, but who's to say that she can't? And I would lean on the side of I think that she could do it, and I sincerely hope that she proves them wrong. I hope that the audience doubles down on Chelsea Green to prove that place wrong, or more importantly, prove Michael Hayes wrong. I wish I could say that all the wrestling news that was going on right now was good. Unfortunately, it is not. Aja Pereira, who I knew as Aja Pereira, her actual name Daphne LaShawn. Unfortunately, she and her family suffered loss, house fire. And in that house fire, she lost her grandparents, her uncle, and her cousin. She did post about that. I want to say, what was that, as I'm recording this, I believe that was today. No, sorry. It happened yesterday, I think. I don't know what you could really say about. I mean, that is tragic and truly heartbreaking. And I'm pretty sure that at this point, you know, being involved in wrestling is probably one of the last things that she was on her mind. I know she just posted that she was in a car wreck. Like, not that far ahead of this. So then to turn around and get this kind of news, and especially, you know, people that she was probably close to. I mean, both her grandparents, uncle and a cousin. It's 4 people. It I don't even have the words right now, and just reading what she had, like their family's trying to navigate that, and they're planning 4 different funerals. Like, I can't imagine trying to plan one, much less 4 of them. So, and just in her Instagram post alone, my cousin, a family of 7 with 5 kids, are now displaced with nothing to their name. God, I mean, that's really rough, man. And I wish the absolute best that they are able to bounce back and pull themselves together through this. I believe that there's a GoFundMe in the link, and it is on her Instagram stories. If you want to find Aja Smith, WWE, that is Aja Smith, AJA Smith, WWE. You can find it through that. Again, former wrestler, now turned referee. I got a chance to cover a couple of matches back in the day when she was Aja Pereira. And apparently she got the name Pereira because the promoter that she was dealing with at the time thought that she needed to be from someplace exotic, so they gave her an exotic last name. I do remember that story. So look, I will just repeat what she says. Any little bit probably helps. So there you go. Unfortunately, it does not end there. It's not as tragic as 4 different deaths. But we have a wrestler who is back on the sidelines again, unfortunately. Ruthless Lala. Now, I know some of you probably don't know who I'm talking about, so you would probably need to look her up. But Lala posted on Instagram that she is back on the show, and I'm trying to paraphrase because she left a fairly lengthy video. She didn't want to type it. She spoke to the camera and on a live stream to people that were following her. The things that she was dealing with and going on at the time. And when I met her, she's another one of those young ladies that I was like, she loves pro wrestling. And I'm not talking about I love it as in, this is just great for me to be on TV or, something along those lines. No, she just loves pro wrestling. I don't even think that she necessarily had it in her mind that she was just going to up and land a WWE contract or AEW or whatever. But she enjoyed doing what she was doing. In her own words, it made her feel important. That's part of the, what she said in the video. Now, I might be getting some of the wording wrong, but you get the idea. It gave her a little bit of purpose. Lala had been dealing with some physical issues for quite some time. And it's not the first time I've seen her in a hospital, or, she wasn't in a hospital when she did this particular video, but it's not the first time I've seen her in some medical straits. But it feels like at this point that she has gone from one to the next. And I sympathize with her for that, because I don't remember what the first thing was that I saw a couple of years ago. But she got past that, and then it was her hip. That put her on the sidelines for the better portion of a year. And then she got past that, and now it's her shoulder, which she says that she could barely do anything with at this point. And her nickname is Miss What That Lariat Do. It's her finish. She tosses a lariat. So I'm pretty sure that didn't help doing that over the years. But now it's gotten to where it's not functioning well enough for her to work. Now, she did put a pro and a con in that situation. The pro being is that she does not require surgery. So, congratulations for that. But the con is that it's to rehab it, she's still going to be out for several months. And then on top of that, and this again, all in her own post, so I'm not saying anything out of school here. Unfortunately, she lost her job at the same time, or thereabout. So it's just been, one thing after another there, and gosh, again, how many times can you say it? But you gotta say it again. My heart goes out to her. My sympathy goes out to her. I hope that she's able to pull that thing through. She's had to back out of multiple bookings that she had already set out. I think her daughter had set up a GoFundMe to try to help her out. So, if you want to look up Ruthless Lala, that will be there for you as well. Now let's try to get this thing and at least finish out this segment with something relatively happy, I guess. And we will finish it off with this to say that Mega Bad, Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford have earned themselves a tag team title shot. Will they be able to win the women's AEW Tag Team Championships from the Babes of Wrath when they hit Grand Slam Australia? Time will tell, but we will certainly keep our eyes open to see that. As a last clip I saw, they actually utilized a doomsday device. And lo and behold, they won with it. It wasn't a hot spot. Imagine that. And lastly, there is a report right now that AEW is looking to add more women to its roster relatively soon. This comes on the heels of them having added the Women's Tag Team Championships, which has basically made it that they need to have more talent on the roster to fulfill those spots. This is a report coming in by Fightful Select. And according to that report, AEW is still expanding their roster and making signings with additions to the women's roster coming fairly soon. It was said that a number of talents are signed that haven't been made public. So, it is a fairly good chance that over the next couple of weeks, you may see new faces popping up on AEW's television, man. This was kind of a passing conversation when I was going over the news, what I was going to talk about. It was presented like, hey, they're doing this for a tag team. What do you think about the Coulson twins going into AEW as a tag team? That's Miami Sweet Heat for those who don't know. And I say, you know what? If you'd have asked me that 2 or 3 months ago, I probably said no. They do not need to be there at all. They ain't ready for it. Today, my opinion is slightly changed because I feel like they are getting into the groove of who they are. I don't believe that they would go and walk in as a top prospect. No. I think they would have to earn that. And they would have to earn that amongst that fan base. But as far as them starting to get their roots, find their evolution, find the persona that they need to be, find out who they are as personalities rather than just generic narcissistic female tag team. They're starting to find out who they want to be in front of the camera. At least I feel that way. So could they go and do something with them now? I don't know if they would be able to go walking in and do something immediately. But I would not be shocked at this point if they were on Ring of Honor TV, let's just say. It might not go to AEW TV, but Ring of Honor's TV, just to kind of get their feet wet within the company. Maybe, quite possibly. You never know. All right. We will keep our eyes open for that because I'm sure that there's going to be some signee that goes to AEW after reading that's going to shock me. And I'm waiting for that news to come rolling down eventually. But in the meantime, we're going to continue on with our little program here. And we're going to take our break. But when we come back, it'll be time to go off into the full-on review of, well, I won't say this week's version of WoW, but the week that I am reviewing version of WoW. And that is going to be in a couple of minutes after our Talking the Talk and our musical interlude. So once we get done with that, we will kick it off and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of WoW Women of Wrestling. Stay tuned.
So of August of 2025 is when I first won the Queen of RPW Championship. And on February 1st will be my first Unshackled, where I am wrestling C-Rex. And I've been asked, Alex, how are you going to go over this hurdle? And I don't think anybody noticed that in the past 6 months, I have defeated everybody that's been in front of me. I've defeated, like, cowgirls. I've defeated foxes. I've defeated men. So what's a dinosaur, you know? Like C-Rex, yes, you might be big and scary, but have you ever wrestled a girl that will use any part of her body to get to win? Because not only am I your Queen of RBW champion, I am also your Queendom HCW tag team champion. So on February 1st in Atlanta, I am walking in as Queen of RBW champion, and I'm walking out as Queen of RBW champion. See you Sunday.
Action Wrestling fans, joining me at this time is Kelsey Raegan, who just went to battle with Corinne Joy. Now, it looked to me like Corinne had a clear-cut victory out there, but you ended up taking home the victory there, Kelsey.
I'm sorry, you said it looked to you like Corinne had the victory?
Well, your shoulders were on the ground. I mean, the ref got taken out from that mist that you put in his face.
I don't recall that. I don't remember that. That's not what I remember at all.
It's not what you remember.
No, I remember beating her, and then that was that.
Well, you did get the victory, but I feel like there should be an asterisk next to that in the record book.
Why? Why do you feel that there should be an asterisk next to that? Because I won fair and square. Everyone saw it. I got the 1, 2, 3.
No, we got to do something about that red mist. I'm going to talk to the promoters here at Action Wrestling to see if we can get that banned here.
Listen, I didn't bring my red mist out tonight, but I can if you want to. Is that something that you want, Tony? Huh?
No.
Then get out of my
No,
way.
thank you.
This is not a test. This is not a test. I don't know if you can handle it. I don't know if you can handle it. This is not a test. I don't know if you can handle it. I don't know if you can handle it. This is not a test. You can handle it. 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 This is not a test. This is not a test. I don't know if you can handle it. 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 This is not a This is not a test. You can handle if you can handle if you can handle if you can This is not a test. You can handle if you can handle if you can handle if you can This is not a test. You can handle if 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 you can handle This is not I don't know if you can handle it. 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 This is not a test. This is not a test. This is not a This is not a This is not a This is not a test.
And we are back. This episode of WoW in review is episode 416, season 4, episode 4, not 14, season 4, episode 16. Look at that. I just said it and I was about to get the number wrong. Episode 416, season 4, episode 16, the title, Daddy's Little Princess. The air date, January 24th, the chronological number 172. And it opens up with the segment doing a recap of Penelope Pink winning the number 1 contendership and how that match between Pink and Tormenta went down. It's about a 2-minute recap. What can you really say here? I thought the editors did a fine job, especially when I saw that they excluded the impact of the mirror across Santana Garrett's head. Although I could have done without seeing the actual mirror itself. That thing just looks like they took a ride down to Toys R Us and like, give me that one. And yes, I realize that is an old reference, but you get the point. The mirror looks like a toy. I really wish that WoW had stronger props and things like this. But that doesn't seem like that's going to be the case ever. They just, whatever prop they got is whatever the prop they use, and just leave it at that. This goes into, I should say, it recaps Lana's promo at the beginning. I forgot to mention that, which I have to say, I know I said it before, but her using the line like, you all see how she broke my mirror with her face. Like, that's a great heel thing to say. I don't know. I have to ask somebody if she's just being fed these things or she's just getting better naturally. But I have to say Lana is easily their best manager. I mean, at this point, I don't even think it's close. She might be doing the best acting job I've ever seen in wrestling, or she gets it. It's one or the other. But yeah, she is vastly ahead of the pack as it relates to being a manager on that program. She might not be the best manager in the world, but she's the best manager in the world of WoW. And then we go into the opening, the power of positivity montage that they have. Be yourself, be strong, and win. Because there's nothing like a positive message before a good combat sport. The next segment, it opens with the commentators, our dear Nigel Zane and David McClain recapping what we saw. And this transitions into the Alliance entering ringside. Arianna Gambino and the rest of her crew all come down together. And she gives a promo. And within that promo, she basically says that she's going to have her WoW debut in the ring in the main event tonight. And McClain acts surprised, like, what? She's going to be in the main event, Nigel. Like, the first thing I wrote is, how is he unaware of tonight's main event? I mean, it's one thing, the wrestling trope of we don't have any match signed until somebody just walks up and decides, hey, I'm challenging you for a match. All right, well, let's do it. Okay, and then you have a main event. I'm sure that trope is not going to go away anytime soon, but it's the most ridiculous thing. And like, it works once or twice, but now it's been going on for years. The whole, we don't have a match signed until somebody just walks out here and declares that they have a match. How on earth is David McClain not aware that she's in the main event? He's the matchmaker. He's not just the matchmaker, he's the acknowledged matchmaker on television. It'd been a different thing if he wasn't acknowledged, like behind the scenes. Only the smart people, wink, wink, nod, nod, would know that, right? If that were the case, then you couldn't say anything. But he has been openly acknowledged as the guy in charge. So who is Arianna Gambino to tell him that she's gonna be in the main event without his approval? He'd have to know. But let's not let logic get in the way of having a good wrestling angle, right? Gambino puts over every member of the Alliance. That's great. She does have a nice presentation in her promo. Wonderful. I wrote down, how will she be in the match, though? Never mind the fact that I also felt this was too soon. Gambino should not be in anybody's match right now. And that's my opinion. Because whatever heat that, I can't even say whatever heat she had, she didn't have any heat. So let me rephrase that. WoW clipped her heat before she had heat to have. They did not get her to a point where people would have wanted to see her get her comeuppance. They did not get her to a point where people wanted to see this loudmouth get shut up. They did not get her to a point where the manager became such an integral part of the team that fans felt like, she needs to be neutralized somehow in order for the baby faces to get over. Or the baby faces are so tired of her, like, look, we need to get even, and if I beat your girls, then I get 5 minutes along with you. Those things, none of that is happening. It's just, here she is. She comes out, and without any sort of coaxing rhyme or reason, she just decides that she's going to be in a match. That's it. Why? Why? I didn't have anything to get. The pros here is she delivered everything well. You can't take that away. She delivered the lines well. And she looks like she is into what she's doing. But this didn't do her any favors. Whereas, and I'm not going to say that she would have turned around and been some sort of heat magnet. I don't know. But they didn't even give her a chance to build it. They didn't give her a chance to become something that the fans would want to see get into the ring. To give her a chance to have the fans want to see her get beat up. None of those things took place. None of those things happened. But they went through with it. So in her second appearance, she's off and running. We'll talk about how that turned out a little later. The next segment is Genesis. It starts with the studio B-roll that moves into Genesis backstage, introducing her new henchwoman. All right, well, I've got a surprise. That. Then this goes into the video package of Genesis introducing her friend. We'll put quotation marks around that. Drucilla Blade. Listed as a weapons master. And I wrote, how is that going to help anything? First off, this promo was again, conviction, delivery, fine. Let's give the good the thumbs up. And those things deserve a thumbs up. But then there's the bad. It is the same promo that she has had in varying degrees for what feels like the last 2 years. And it's contradictory. Like now they're having to try to justify that she has this person, but that's not her partner, so it's different. She got on, within this, we'll call this cinematic promo segment. Within this little segment, she goes on to explain how we got to use exile again. I'm like, why are we still harping on her being exiled from this, her being exiled from that? I mean, good grief, man. We could change it up a little bit here. So she carries on about that, and she talks about her coming in and her team wasn't any good, and she didn't do what she needed to do in the singles. So then she realizes what she needed. Basically, and this is all paraphrased. Now I'm not giving exact wording, but she needed some backup. So she went to her old friend. I stepped away from WoW and wrestling in general. Like, where was she ever in wrestling in general? When I want somebody to show me a match that Genesis has had anywhere in the world outside of WoW. I mean, maybe she did. I don't know. But I doubt it. So stepping away from WoW for her is stepping away from wrestling. But she's like, I had to step away from, WoW and wrestling altogether and I guess, go find herself and figure out what she's going to do. And I got my friend. Look, this segment, for a low-budget action movie, this would look great. And that's what it looked like. It looked like a low-budget action movie that just was taking place in the desert between two karate masters or something. It didn't... I wouldn't have looked at that clip and thought, pro wrestling. If anything, I would have been expecting the vampires to go shooting up out of the desert ground or something, but that didn't happen, obviously. But it looked good for that if you were trying to make a B-level action movie character. I mean, not really sure how it works for wrestling. And Blade is, she's such a new element that, the studio footage and the video packages shot for this. I mean, she looks good in it. I guess there was, as I said, as a new element, there's not really much else that they can rely on. It's not that like they have existing match footage or they got match footage from some other promotion that they can run and say, look how dangerous she is. They're relying on her as a weapons master to be the threat in this equation. And it still comes back to, how is this going to help? How? Drucilla Blade is walking around with 2 swords that she's never, ever, ever, ever going to use. So what good is this? I get that it sounds good. And to somebody that's not actually sitting there thinking about it, it probably sounds good to them too. Like, all right, yeah, look at that. She's got this person with these 2 giant katanas that, if anybody starts screwing around with Genesis, she'll just attack them. Well, she ain't going to attack them with these swords. Unless she's trying to commit an act of murder on a nationally broadcast television show, which would be the act of stupidity. Genesis could barely use the nunchucks. And I shouldn't say barely. She doesn't. I mean, it's a perfect blunt object weapon that she probably could have utilized at some point. Done did it. Doesn't happen. So, here we are with these 2. She can't use a pair of nunchucks. So, what would make anybody believe that this sword is going to get broken out and used by anybody? It's just a problem. If you don't believe that, you don't have to go any further than looking at Dagger from WoW, who I forget played the part. I think what was the lady's name? Michelle Blanchard, I think. But when I look at that, it's like she was basically the same thing. She wasn't, the look was different. She didn't have the same motivation. I'm not saying that the character and personality is exactly the same, but I say that she's in the same boat and that she was just kind of a loose-knit personality who happened to walk out there with 2 long blades. And it was 2 long blades that couldn't be used. They wouldn't even really let her threaten somebody with it. I'm really thinking, it's like, did Blade even come close to threatening anyone? I don't think so. So it's a futile effort to have Drucilla Blade there as a weapons master for weapons that she's probably very likely, and I'm giving like a 0.01% chance that she would ever use. But, this is all for the benefit of the show in the cinema, and it didn't seem like she did much better when she walked out there to ringside. Remember, this is her debut. Got to mention that because this was the surprise. This is Genesis Surprise, advertised a week ago. Keep that in mind, okay? She brought this up last week. I will be bringing a surprise to WoW, guys. You need to stay tuned or tune in or whatever, right? That was the sell. So let's get to the next segment, and then we'll talk about the sell. And the next segment was Sibley Scoles interviewing Catalina Speed, which is, it's fine. Scoles didn't chew up the scenery or nothing like that, like, trying to overact or trying to be a part of the thing that's going on. She seemed more subdued and controlled here. Catalina, I would say the same. Only real difference is that maybe it was a little short. I don't know if she was prepared necessarily to cut some lengthy promo, or maybe she just didn't have anything to say, which I've heard on a number of occasions about certain talents that they just didn't know what they was talking about, because not that they didn't want to cut a promo, not that they couldn't cut a promo. It's like they didn't know what subject matter they was supposed to be talking about. So you get a lot of vague comments from baby faces. They seem like this, like, oh yeah, they're just sticking with generalities, and that's what it felt like here. It's just, it was nice to see the backstage interview, which clearly they're behind the LED screens at this point. Do they have a locker room? I've been seeing this LED screen thing a lot. It's like turning into the WoW steps from back in season 1, where every conversation had to take place in front of the WoW steps. Well, now I think the WoW LED board is becoming that new thing. And for whatever reason, this was the interview section of the show. Like, Scoles, stand here and interview her. And she does a fine job. There are times when she has gone a little over the top in her interviewing style, but here she did a fine job, as did Speed. But like I said, it didn't seem like there was a lot of direction within the course of that interview. The next segment, of course, is Genesis with her new muscle bodyguard, whatever you want to call her, Drucilla Blade, and Catalina Speed facing off against each other. Now, before we go into the match, I forgot to mention one thing from earlier. After they did the recap, and it's not a major thing, it's just it's a minor faux pas. I think I just kind of wish that Nigel would have addressed it with David on the spot, or at least they would have taken it out in editing, perhaps. Again, not a big deal. Well, maybe not a big deal for them. Anyhow, it's just a turn of phrase. David, to listen to him talk about the match between Tormenta and Penelope Pink, if you went solely off of his words, you would think that she regained the championship. He's like, and Tormenta was able to be the champion again. Which, again, that's a minor deal, but for somebody that's just coming into that, they might not understand what that he meant to say was that she retained it. And that was something that, I would have wished that Nigel would have spoke up or said something, or they'd have edited it out and changed it, because it wasn't a case of her winning it or recapturing it or something like that. And those little things sometimes will matter. Now, it probably doesn't matter within the crowd that WoW generally caters to, but just for the sake of the review, we have to point out that, that was presented a little bit off. And no, it's not going to deter the path of the show, or no, it's not going to cost him his job because he's going to be there regardless. But yeah, every once in a while he'll have a little moment like that where the choice of wording might be a little off, and this is one of those cases where the choice of wording was a little bit off. But anyway, back to the match. So we talked about, Drucilla Blade being introduced, and that seemed to be the selling point of this entire match. Yes, the match is Genesis. And I think it was pretty much a foregone conclusion at this point that she was supposed to go over. But they talked up Drucilla Blade from a week ago till now. Not a massive amount, but they talked her up. Next week, as I brought up earlier, next week you guys will see my surprise. And then she has the segment where she talks her up, and they got the cinematic introduction of her, and she's standing with the blades and whatnot. And come on now. Tell me that doesn't look like that's the introduction of a vampire hunter. I know that's not what it's supposed to be, but tell me that she doesn't look like she's supposed to be in some Netflix or Tubi movie special Drucilla Blade vampire hunter. I mean, come on. She looks the part. Anyhow, we get the introduction of Genesis with Drucilla Blade following her up, and McLean tries to make her sound intimidating. Look at her, Nigel. She looks like a bad, when he says something like that. I don't want to disparage this young lady in terms of her look for the role that she has taken. But I'm sorry she doesn't look intimidating. At all, by any stretch of the imagination. I would not look at her and ooh, okay, she looks tough, or I can't believe that Genesis found this. So there's nothing about her that would make me feel like, yeah, that was a good choice. Nothing. We've seen the bodyguard, protector, the heavy, the muscle. We've seen that gimmick dozens of times across multiple promotions, across decades. I don't know if I've seen anybody come out with someone who wasn't either a name or at the very least, looked the part. And you can just pick them out if you want to. You just go back, Cornette and Big Bubba Rogers, who would later be the boss man. He stood head and shoulders above every member of the Midnight Express and Cornette. Shawn Michaels, he gets Diesel. Later he gets Sid. Now those are two big imposing guys. Later he gets Rick Rude as an insurance policy, who we all know is a muscular dude. Yeah, you didn't see it under the suit, but he already had the reputation. Triple H, Chyna. Okay, she's female, but she looked the part. She looked like she could throw somebody around. 911 wasn't necessarily a bodyguard, but I mean, he was there for intimidation to some degree. That was in ECW. And you could probably go on and on and on about people who, hey, look, I needed somebody to watch my back, so I got this person to come in and let me introduce you to XYZ. Drucilla Blade physically is smaller than Genesis. So, I mean, looking at them standing side by side, you would think that it would be Genesis the other way around, watching her, not Blade being, the watcher. Or they could have, at the very least, found some other body-building gimmick or some taller, broader, wider, something. Because I can't say it enough. Those blades are not going to do a thing. Just like Genesis. That's the first thing she did when she comes in there. She shows off that she can do her her deal with the nunchucks, and she's good at it. But when did she ever use those to influence a match? Whenever. So the fact that Blade looks smaller than both Genesis and Catalina Speed does not do much to endorse this idea that she's this, here's my muscle. Here's the one that's watching my back. This is who I need to help me get to the top. And wow. The entire narrative of this match segment was built around the fact that she claimed that she needed some help, even though that beforehand she didn't need help. The announcers then try to justify why this situation is different somehow than her needing / wanting exile. Well, she hasn't been good with her partners, but they say you can't have new old friends. Like, Nigel tried. You got to give him that. He tried. He tried to justify this scenario some kind of way. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. If she had not gotten rid of exile to begin with, she wouldn't be in this situation. And enough with the exile references. Enough with that. It's like I said, she can give the content, not the content, she can deliver the promos very well. She's a good on-screen presence. Her content is lacking. It's all built around the same thing. It never changes. It's just varying degrees of you cheated me, I don't get a title shot, give me a title shot. And David, why won't you give? I was like, well, I wouldn't normally agree with him, but what has she done to deserve a title shot to begin with? She's had multiple opportunities for a title shot that she's lost all of them. So why are we still here? It's not even like the Jesse Jones situation where she had a viable and reasonable excuse to the things that happened to her in WoW. Like, I win a number one contendership, but then it's taken away. I win the tag team championships, and you take that away. Stuff like that. They wouldn't even acknowledge that she won the tag team championships with the Darlings, the Dixie Darlings. But those things, there was some level of truth, even if it was a skewed truth by the heel, there was some level of that you could go with, like, yeah, well, she does deserve that. Genesis doesn't have a leg to stand on beyond the fact that she just wants a title shot, which she should, to be fair, because that is the prize of being in that company. Now, I don't particularly care for the belt, but that's not for me to care for. She is supposed to want that. I give her that, but it's just they've taken whatever reasonable argument that she has and they've flushed it down the toilet, only to try to rebuild it all over again and then flush it and then try to do it all over again. It's just this same cycle again and again and again. When is it going to stop? Her not needing or wanting backup, but then deciding that she needed backup in a match where she didn't need the backup. That was the other thing. It's like, because the match in and of itself it wasn't really all that important. I assumed, probably like most logical people, that, okay, well, this is Blade's introduction. They gave her the big intro that something here is going to happen to allow us to see who Drucilla Blade is, why she's there, why she's valuable. Nothing. I mean, she didn't do a thing. Why was she there? Why was this supposed to be the big that this is why I say, wow. WoW is the shits when it comes to debuts. There's no way to put that any nicer. WoW is the absolute shits when it comes to debuting somebody. Why would you do this? I mean, she literally served no purpose in this match. For Genesis to turn around, let's just go ahead and say it, for Genesis to go around and win on her own. Blade didn't distract, didn't grab a leg, didn't pass a weapon, didn't beat up the girl on the outside, didn't even so much as really talk to her. She just was there. And if you're watching the match, you might have forgot that. She wasn't on camera through most of it. So, what was this for? Why was this forwarding some sort of introduction to what we considered a new talent? This felt like more of a competitive match than it needed to be. That's just my opinion. Genesis is perfectly fine in this environment, I guess. This is also the match, by the way, that drew the attention onto WoW for all the wrong reasons. Which I was legitimately surprised that they were going to air, but I guess they had to if they were going to use this magnificent debut of Drucilla Blade. You know, if they had, this was already written, and I don't think they could get around it regardless of whether the botch was there or not. So in any case, if you want to see the match, I mean, I'm sure they have it up on YouTube by now, and it was fine up until a point. Up until the end of it, it was, you know, probably okay. We got all our good stuff. Genesis worked on Speed's leg and knee, and to her credit, Catalina Speed sold the leg as much as he could. So we appreciate that. Genesis set Speed up after a firewoman's carry rolled through and pinned Speed with a corkscrew leg drop from the second rope. That is what we all saw. And Nigel, again, tried to cover this as best he could by calling it, which, you know, he had to. He had to, and he should have. There was no way to get around that. It was obvious. It was plain as day. He had to make the call. Now, he tried to buff it up a little bit by, oh, look, you know, she just dropped her foot across her face. And, you know, she basically playing it up like she did it as a vicious move rather than a fuck up. But we all know that it was a fuck up. And then she pinned her without any help from Drucilla Blade, without her doing anything special, without her even really making her presence known. So again, what was this debut after this effort and time they put into having this video package where this voiceover is building her up, and then you get the commentators talking about, well, now she's got a new friend, and look at her, she looks intimidating, she looks like a bad mother, you know what? And where did all of that go? Genesis obviously looked immediately like she screwed up when she connected to Speed. So, as I said when we got the earlier footage, opposed to now, I absolutely believe that she was remorseful about that. I don't think that she had any sort of malice. And yes, it is not something that she needs to be performing. She doesn't need to do a corkscrew leg drop off at the second rope. Matter of fact, she needs to just keep it basic. she probably doesn't wrestle enough overall for that to be a comfortable thing for her to do. So my advice, keep that thing basic. A leg drop coming down from the second rope would have been just fine. Didn't have to be a corkscrew to provide that. But after the match, Genesis cuts a promo, which was all well and fine. This was essentially to introduce Blade, but she didn't do anything. And it was essentially the same song and dance. So ultimately, whereas it might have led you to believe that, hey, this is going to be a showcase for Blade to do something, or at least interact at some point to show and prove herself to be a viable component to this equation. None of that happened. Which then goes back to the whole thing of what did she need her for? She won on her own. What was the point of this? And overall, it was the match, even though the match was fine, minus the finish, it's still a match that's not strong enough to get a cold or non-wrestling fan audience into it. You had people that were cheering the moves and the impacts and this, that, and the other thing. You've had that. And that's going to happen. Because people they're used to cheering or booing for I shouldn't say booing. Cheering for, the big spots. That much we know. They'll do that. They'll cheer the moves. I don't know if they necessarily cared or were that overly concerned with the persons involved. I do not believe that they're like, hey, good Genesis, all right, you know what I'm saying? Or let's go Speed. I don't think any of that took place. They just were there, enjoying the show, and probably did not care one way or the other. But I felt like this was a massive waste of time. Not for Genesis, mind you. Or for that matter, not even for Speed, even though she probably needed to get her jaw checked after the match. But it was a waste of time in terms of the television show to tell people that, hey, this thing is about to happen, attempting to get people excited for that thing, and then that thing just doesn't occur. It's like, dust in the wind. Didn't amount to much of anything. And if you got somebody that's new, that's looking forward to it, that's waiting, like, all right, and then this is what they got, it wouldn't shock me if they wouldn't come back or if they wouldn't believe in them again. This is why this show is kind of built off of people who just take WoW at their word and they don't question it and not concerned with whether or not they deliver the goods or not. But I don't fall into that category. I am. If you tell me that this is supposed to happen, or you create a scenario that it looks like this is supposed to take place, well, that's what I'm at least expecting some of. It didn't necessarily have to be her walking into the ring being a world beater necessarily, but she, for what they were telling people, she didn't really give much of anything. Not much of anything. It was just her as a body that anybody could have done. And so those are my two big issues with this thing. One, for whatever it is, Drucilla Blade does not look intimidating. She didn't look like she could fit the role of a bodyguard or the muscle or the heavy, whatever you want to label that position as. She doesn't look the part. The only thing that makes her look remotely like she has any sort of badassery is that she wears shades. And she's in black. Well, that's about it. Like even the swords didn't necessarily look like anything because they didn't come out. So this weapons master didn't have a purpose whatsoever. And they had a brief moment where the babyface comes out and she looks at Blade, Blade looks at her, and I think that's where it started and that's where it stopped. So I just don't get it. I do not get it why they do these things. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I guess it doesn't have to make sense to me because if it's being portrayed for an audience of one, he's happy. Next segment is a promo backstage interview segment with Miami's Sweet Heat. I'm sorry, that is out of what the next segment was not Miami Sweet Heat. They came a little later. The next segment was Mela. God damn it. I just heard her name and I still can't get it right. Anyhow, their on-site interviewer. She goes out into the crowd to the attendees. This starts off with them chanting, "Women of Wrestling." I have a very difficult time believing that crowd just suddenly broke out into a Women of Wrestling chant, uncoached. And she goes out and she talks to several fans who all yell that they love Women of Wrestling without mentioning a single name, group, or angle, or, these, in my opinion, are random attendees, not fans. I mean, the first two people that are on the screen that she's talking to got beers in their hand, and he is barely able to get the information that she's asking out. Like, he's just like, yeah, this is great. Well, what do you like about it? Well, all of it. Yeah, that's what I mean. It goes to the next person like, all right, well, I just want my boys to see it because they need to see that women can do it too. You go to somebody else, I love Women of Wrestling. Everybody there just felt like they were just there. They were attending the show. Now, granted, I'm not saying that they did not have a good time. I'm not saying that they didn't enjoy it. I'm not saying that that they were told to say these things specifically. But what I am saying, it didn't seem like beyond that day that they knew anything about this place. Or I shouldn't say this place because they were in Vegas. Of course they knew about Vegas. But beyond that day, it didn't seem like they knew anything about Wild Women of Wrestling. Other than they walked up and they saw, hey, there's women in there wrestling. It staged may not be the right word for it. Because when you do have somebody that's going out into the crowd with a microphone and a camera, you are going to get some excited fans who are willing, more than willing, to get in front of the camera and say some stuff. Because some of them wanted to be on camera too, and it was very evident. You had some overactors in there. But when I look at this, I do not see somebody who was there at that show like, man, this is great because it's this, that, and the other. And I love this person, hate this person, look, can't wait to see what's coming up next. Most of these people probably did not have a clue what was going on. Now, if somebody is looking at that segment and saying, hey, no, they all knew it, and here's how I know that, then let me know. Wild talent included. Or her, Mela. I know I'm saying that wrong. I don't know why her name just like drops out of my head when I get ready to say it. But even her, if she is out there somewhere in podcast land, which I'm sure she probably have more important things to do. Look, if you are going to tell me that, no, these fans were perfectly fine, they knew everything about WoW, and I could prove that, then, sister, give me the goods. Show me. Because up until that happens, I am just going to go off of the belief that these were just loud attendees, some of them more than one, probably more than 10 or 20 or 50 or 40 of them, 50, 60, 70 of them going backwards. More than that were probably tipsy, and maybe a few more than that were probably out and out drunk. Like the first pair of guys that she talked to. Well, I shouldn't say first pair. The other one was just enjoying his beer. And then you had the one that was talking who was like, yeah, I love this stuff. What do you love about it? Well, all of it. Yeah, that's a ringing endorsement. Anyhow, so yeah, and the women of wrestling chant, whereas I guess it sounds okay. I don't think it's ever going to have that same kind of organic feel of ECW or, ROH or one of those places that those fans got into it enough where they started chanting the promotion. That's while living off of the work of other promotions. Because, ECW was maybe the first one that started up that chant our promotions name deal. And I'm not even sure they went out of their way to get people to do that. But from that point on, if it was a chantable set of initials, they would do it. So I'm sure somebody there got up in front of the crowd. Hey, guys, all together now. Let's go. Women of wrestling. Or coached them up and got them going. Now, part of that I know to be absolutely true because I did see, again, the not behind-the-scenes stuff, but some fan footage of things that were going on between the matches where Katie Marie Jones is basically playing the hype woman. I'm not saying that she did it there, and nor am I saying that is wrong because, that is what you do. That is part of the job. You should have somebody that's there to try to keep the crowd hot or at least, between the matches on the downtime. So that's all well and good. I'm just saying I don't think that this went any further than that young lady walking out into the crowd like, hey, talk to me for a second. Let's get some good footage or whatever. The next segment is the Dojo Defenders. They're doing, at least a recap of the Dojo Defenders and the Kai no show situation. This is now leading into what I was talking about earlier, Miami Sweet Heat thing. And this is treated like Terror Strike overcame the odds. This gives the Dojo Defenders another shot at the titles without any issues. I wrote down what was supposed to be the consequences here. Because if we go backwards into this story, we got Terror Strike running around in the locker room, and she's on the phone, and she's trying to get in contact with her partner who didn't know what time the match was, apparently. Then she goes out there and asks for, give me 30, 40 minutes because I think she missed her flight, which would help a whole lot, I guess. Then Lana Starr I shouldn't say Lana decided. Dave McClain decided for her, we're going to have a singles match. Now, at no point do I remember that ever being, if they win or if Terror Strike wins, then they'll get a title shot. Here is my issue with that. They already had a title shot. That was supposed to be their title shot. What was earned? Why would this be any different? And if they were going to just have it postponed, then why have the match to begin with? Why have that singles match at that time? It feels like, hey, look, we just give me some time. I think I said in that podcast, he could just postpone it. He's the guy in charge. If she can't be there and you're still going to give her the match anyway, why is it so drastically important that you have this singles match in this place? And then after you have a singles match, why are we now trying to change the history to where that singles match was somehow some sort of number one contenders match to a match that they already had a championship lineup for, a championship match for? He could have just as easily as said, hey, look, you're going to have a match tonight. Just pick one of them, but I am going to move the title match. You're not going to lose your title match because your partner isn't here. We're going to just reschedule that another day, yada, yada, yada. But going off of this, you would think that, well, because she went in there and she showed guts and she overcame the odds, she won, and now there's a title shot. It was earned. There was nothing earned here. They already had it. I will also say that the room that they're in needs better mics also. It just sounds like they're in a vacant hallway or something. So, I don't know. I also wrote down, is this supposed to set Blaze up for something? Because the elements that are tied into this are the Dojo Defenders, Sandy Shore, Ashley Blaze. Miami Sweet Heat is just like on the periphery of this. I don't know if they have anything directly to do with this situation. But is Blaze supposed to be some significant thing here beyond the fact that, hey, if you need a partner, I got your back? Very friendly, but is that going somewhere? We go to the next segment. This is Sibley Scoles interviewing Miami Sweet Heat. Not sure what Scoles was trying to imply when she asked them the question at the beginning of this, but it started off as if she was getting the information kind of mixed up or backwards or something like that. Now, and by her, I mean Scoles. But the great part about this interview is that Lindsay just went ahead and cut that off. I mean, I have to say, Lindsay and Lori right now really feel like they are starting to come into who they need to be. Lindsay comes across like the drunk party sorority girl, just loud and full of herself. All she was missing was the cup in her hand. I loved this. I loved this. I ain't saying that she's the greatest promo walking the planet, but just think about how many times you get a vague, go nowhere promo in WoW. Just think about that. How many times do you get somebody that just has a generic, bland, do nothing, go nowhere promo? You just had Genesis cut a promo with energy, but it's the same thing over and over and over again. And the baby faces, well, they cheated. It wasn't fair. They did it over and over again. How many times on WoW's TV have you heard just awful promos? So when you get one that comes out of nowhere and that sounds like it got some energy and it got context and content to it, I say applaud it. Applaud it. And this is one of those promos. It should be applauded. Lindsay and Lori had something that they could finally sink their teeth into to talk about. And they called out everything that the Dojo Defenders did wrong. Well, first, let's go back to the beginning of the interview. I talked about the energy, that I loved it, but let's get to the content. If there was any given criticism that I would have about the segment, it would not be about Miami Sweet Heat. It would probably be the opening line that Sibley gave, which it made her come across like she wanted to be more a part of the act rather than reporting on it. She's like, yeah, I knew 5-time champions of the world did that. Hey, look, it's their show and she could present it however they want. I would have preferred that she would have been a little bit more of the news reporter or the sports reporter rather than the red carpet interviewer. Here she felt like the red carpet interviewer. Like, I want to be I want to have fun with you guys and talk with you and joke around and haha. That's how it felt. Did not, take anything away from this, but that's how she presents, in my opinion here. But as I said, Lindsay pretty much cut that off. She did the heel thing. No one remembers that. First, Sibley started talking about David took away the rematch. And like this, these are things that didn't happen. That's why I said it kind of started off a little wonky. But Lindsay cuts that and was like, nobody remembers that. No one cares. Perfect heel stuff. Just get rid of the fact that I lost because it doesn't matter. Which is basically, that is a basic heel thing to do. Just no, who cares about that? Because she's still standing there with the championship belts, which is true. We're here on time, which is true. both of them are calling these things out. Lindsay and Lori are standing there like, hey, look, y'all can't even show up. We're on time. We're in sync. They're saying everything that's right about them and wrong about the Dojo Defenders right there. And the worst part is that there are no baby faces that can counteract the heel taunts. And this is a perfect example of that. What are they going to say? More importantly than that, would they even get the opportunity to have said it? So they deliver one of their better promos, in my opinion. They point out all the flaws that the Dojo Defenders created for themselves. And even that last shot that Lindsay put in, and say they had another chance coming at him. It's like, we'll see you in the ring if you show up. Now, I would hope that was just a line that she threw in because it was a good line. But still, the point being is that they finally had something to just really go into, opposed to stupid storylines that they had to be a part of, because even though they're kind of in this storyline, they aren't involved in it. They aren't involved in the meat of it. So they don't have to worry about the issue of continuity and all that stuff with them. All they had to do is worry about being the tag team champions. And I was perfectly okay with everything that they did and said. But again, how do the babyfaces defend this? How do the babyfaces defend against everything that Lindsay and Lori said? Theoretically, they should have gotten the chance to speak and retort at some point in time. Maybe they'll get it next week. I don't know. But they, generally speaking, the babyfaces don't do a good job. Outside of Jessie Jones, I know I've said that a couple of times, but it bears repeating. Outside of her, maybe Holly Swag when she was there. But any other babyface that they've had on that show usually cannot stand up to the fire of a heel promo there. And nor do they try. It would have been nice if they did. It would have been a surprise like what I got here, but I doubt that is ever going to happen because it seems like they're just moving off into another direction. So we get out of that, and we go for a promo for the main event. Yay. Next segment, a video package of Arianna Gambino playing pool and driving through Vegas and introducing Gambino with the bosses here. This is part of the video of her debut to begin with her Cadillac Escalade on the rooftop of a empty parking garage as she drives to whatever pool hall that they had in Vegas that they wanted to make sure that they got the landmark of. So I guess they can say that they fulfilled their commitments and we'll put you on TV. So they had that, and all the Alliance members are in this pool hall playing pool or pretending to play pool. I would hope that they were pretending to play pool, because when she walks in, her being Arianna Gambino, she just like grabs one of the cue ball, the balls before it goes into the pocket. I was like, hey, how you know I didn't have money on that shot? But anyhow. So we get that, and we get the boss here. Now we go to the last segment. That's the main event. It's the Alliance, represented by BK Rhythm, Gigi, Gianni, and Arianna Gambino versus Monsters in Metal. McLean says this is going to rock the house. I wrote, I'm not sure why anybody would or could believe that. And that's terrible that I would, put it that way, but I cannot believe that anybody could or would believe that. Like, for what reason would they think that this match, particularly with somebody who has not had a match at all? She's not been on TV. She's not been in a wrestling ring. She doesn't have a background in wrestling to speak of. She doesn't have any footage of her wrestling. She doesn't have any sort of resume for her wrestling. So for what reason would you remotely think that this is going to rock the house, as he said? But that's what he called it. And getting back to the earlier point that we had at the beginning of this review. Why? Why is Arianna Gambino in this match to begin with? Gambino, although she is the leader of this group, for what reason did she need to step into the ring? Now, most managers, and no, she does not have to follow the lead of every manager that's ever been in wrestling, but most managers tend not to want to be in a physical environment. That's why they manage. Because I don't want to be a wrestler. I want to enjoy the fruits of wrestling without actually having to be physical in the ring. Here, she just more or less volunteered herself like, and I'm going to make my debut tonight. I cannot say it any better than whatever heat that she might have garnered, they stepped on that right here and right now. And there was nothing that the Alliance could do about this. There was nothing that BK Rhythm, Gigi Gianni, Sylvia Sanchez, Reina Del Rey, any combination of them or all of them combined could have did to fix this situation. For what? I mean, I know they tried to make this good, but for what? Why? Why? They couldn't show some level of restraint and keep her out of the ring for a couple of weeks until somebody forced her into a match. The Alliance already has a horrible win-loss record. Why are you going to do this to them? Yeah. This, after seeing the intros, McLean does what I would consider a clear voiceover that sells this on the merit of seeing Gambino's debut. You're not going to want to miss this. Why? Why would I not want to miss this? I could see if she was some sort of highly touted athletic prospect that the world was waiting on. Or, she was a wrestler that came from another company and this is a debut in WOW. Or something along those lines. I could understand it. But for what reason would you're not going to want to miss this? This was probably one of the most missable matches that I could have had. There was nothing really going on here that required me to watch it. It was just another random match that served no purpose. Because the only thing that they built this on is that Arianna Gambino is having her debut match. outside of that, what else was there to this? Not much of anything. So after the introductions of the Alliance, then following them, Monsters and Metal, we go to a commercial and we come back. And Gambino, not only does she want to be in the main event and have a match, but she decides that she's going to start the match and start it off against Fury. So, again, we are not even going to bother to play the part of the manager that, the physically inept manager. That's probably two out of, managers that's like that, because that Samantha Smart did the same thing at one point. She's not, they probably won't acknowledge that now because that was part of their forgotten, unaired season. But it's not like she didn't jump up in somebody's face before, daring them to hit her or standing in the way for the class master. And now you got Gambino, but their managers do not seem to be in fear of their physical well-being when it comes to these wrestlers that are supposed to be tougher than them. And this is another case of that. Gambino wasn't concerned about Fury at all. And I don't know why. Fury's supposed to, in their universe, she's still supposed to be a veteran. She's supposed to have like 10 years of wrestling experience. Why would Gambino even want to be anywhere near her? So we start off, and it's Gambino 2.0 versus Fury. She gets a couple of, we're not going to call it lucky shots. She gets herself the chance to show off, at least momentarily, against Fury, which leads her to a point where they have a spot where Fury has a rear waist lock on Gambino. Gambino runs forward, ducks down, and it causes Fury to clothesline herself on the top rope. Gambino's so proud of herself that she stands there. Hey, look at me. Look what I did. And then Fury just walks off and tags off the chainsaw. And so now we get our monster spot where Gambino's so proud of herself and she, hey, look what I did. And she turns around and, chainsaw standing there. And she doesn't want any part of the chainsaw, so she just tags out. And then we get the normal match because now BK Rhythm's in and it's pretty much the Brat Pack at that point. And just as soon as Chainsaw does whatever it is that she was going to do to Rhythm, she tags herself right back out of the match. So that was a lot. So let's go backwards here and examine why I said that they squashed her pop. Or at least the pop that Chainsaw might have gotten. Because had this been, just imagine, in our alternate universe of WoW for a moment. Imagine that we've had 6 to 8 weeks of Arianna Gambino just being an out-and-out brat. Helping her team win, getting on the babyface's nerves, causing problems, talking trash, whatever the case may be. Now, I do understand that on their taping schedule that this would not work, but like I said, for the sake of our little alternate universe, let's say that they kept up with it within a month's time or something like that. And they were actually in front of fans that knew what WoW was. To the point that they would want to see Gambino get her comeuppance. That same sequence that they had right there probably would have got a good reaction out of the crowd. If they did it the exact same way, if she had heat. The desire for her to get beat up. And in this fantasy universe, she would do the same thing and get in, want to show that she's better than everybody else. Although she, in this particular instance, it probably should have been against Daisy Lane, not Fury. Because at least she's bigger than Daisy Lane, and you can justify it like, hey, she wants to be in there with the girl that she thinks that she can toss around. You do the same spot. We're a race lock. Duck underneath. Daisy Lane goes down. I'm smiling at it and proud of myself. Yay. And then she, Lane rolls over, tags in her big buddy. She comes up behind her. She turns around and we do the old surprise thing. Then she can go creep out, instantly. Show the fear in the face, make the tag, and get out. They probably would have gotten something out of that alone. But here we are, and you can't have another debut match, so that's gone. I still question the why. Why did we do this? Even in the logic of WoW's universe, why did they do it? Why did Arianna Gambino feel like this was a necessary function for her to perform? Those questions may never be answered. In fact, I'm pretty sure they won't be answered. Unless somebody's going to go out of their way to try to tell me just to, like, look, this is what we did and this is why we did it. But I don't think that there's anybody there that could say this is what we did and this is why we did it. I mean, not for that anyway. If I was a betting man, I would just say that Selena May just thought it was cool and just stuck her in the match. And that was that. Because I can't see any other logical reason that would have taken place at all. So in any case, we get the match. And we got the Brat Pack basically in a 2-on-3. Even though, yes, we got Gambino in there, but, she wasn't the primary factor in this. Although they treated her like that. It goes back to the other thing. She's not some sort of physically inept manager. They treated her as a wrestler of equal standing. Not sure how I feel about that. They worked they worked the match until they got Daisy Lane in there. They make the tag off to Gambino. She comes in and then she gets a couple of moves in on Lane. Again, treated on equal ground. Not really placed as she's a manager and she's working differently than everybody else. The Brat Pack do what they do. I mean, I guess the curse of the Brat Pack is going to continue, or the curse of the Alliance in general is just going to continue. I thought that there was going to be a little bit of difference when they got the new manager, and maybe they would turn around and score a couple of wins here and there, but that does not seem to be the overall case here. Seems like they're pretty much going back the way they started. They got the heat on Lane for a little while until she was able to not cut it off, but make the hot tag, even though it wasn't all that hot. She did manage to escape, get away, roll through, made the tag, and then here comes Chainsaw, the cleanup hitter of the group. Why they still keep that woman with open sore wounds on her face? Shouldn't that be gone by now? I mean, if that were a real thing, I am positive that no one on that roster would want to be anywhere near or in a ring with her. And it wouldn't have anything to do with fear of their physical safety. It'd probably be fear of catching a disease. If you had these open sores on your head for 3 years now and they ain't healed up, you need to see a doctor. So we get the match, we already in the match. We get Chainsaw in the match against Gianni. Gianni goes down to Chainsaw in her version of a black hole slam. The referee gets ready to make the count. Sanchez and Del Rey pull the ref out. And the ref had to make sure he made a big spectacle of kicking him out of the arena by, all right, you guys, you two, you're out of here. He does the whole hand miming thing. So at the end of it, we get Sanchez and Del Rey kicked out at the very end. Gambino tags in as Gianni is coming out to get away from Chainsaw. I'm not even really sure why Chainsaw tagged out to begin with. Why does she ever need to tag out? She clearly seems like she does not need help. But she tags out, and then here comes Fury to come back against Gambino. Fury clotheslines her down. Chainsaw choke slams BK Rhythm on the apron. We get a bitch slap by Fury on both Gianni and Gambino. Gambino's then set up and served up for a choke slam, which I'm pretty sure would have done the job. Now, I will say she sold a choke slam great. Folded up like an accordion. And then we get the graveyard smash or whatever they call it. Didn't look quite as impactful this time as it had in the past, but whatever. So, a second debut of the night. This time, the debut is met with a loss. And that's why I love wild debuts. They're always so great. It was an entertaining show. The narrative of said entertainment, however, is sometimes a little lacking. This was lacking in narrative. Not in performance, but in narrative. The idea that they would go through the measure of trying to introduce Drucilla Blade as some sort of dangerous component to Genesis's, is that how you pronounce it, with possession? Genesis's. Well, the idea that they would try to announce her as something important to her as a means of winning and losing, I'm like, that didn't come across. Then you had this unnecessary debut by Gambino. For her to go out there and lose. And lose at a point where it meant absolutely nothing. It didn't mean anything. Did not mean a thing for her to do that. And if we're going to check this out for, let's say, the sake of putting ourselves in the manager's shoes, and you know you're going up against Monsters of Metal, you know this, right? Is that the time that you want to try to hog the spotlight and be in the match? Or do you try to put your best troops forward to try to beat them? You know you're going to have to come across Chainsaw at some point in the match, so why would you want to be there? Especially when you have somebody of equal size standing outside of the ring. Never mind the fact that you have your alleged exterminator there. So your two most, quote, dangerous components weren't even a factor. In fact, they got kicked out. I know that we're not supposed to apply logic to this. I know that they don't want you to be thinking about stuff like that. But, I can't help it. Why would Gambino be wanting to be in this match to begin with? That would have been the first question that I asked. If I'm sitting there in the writer's room or whatever that they're doing. I was like, why? Why would you want Gambino to do this? Because it'll be great. No, it won't. It'll be stupid. And it was stupid. Well, we can have Drucilla Blade go out there and do what? Well, she can stand there. And this is why they wouldn't want, I'm not even going to say me. They would not want anybody like me in that room. Because these things, they don't make any sense to me. And I would have to ask, well, what is this for? What is the point behind her showing up and just not doing a damn thing? What's the point of Gambino getting in the ring and then losing? When nobody cares about her to begin with. She just got here. That's not even a knock on WoW is creative or anything else. It's literally she just got here. She's been here for what, a week? Or 2, maybe? And we're talking about TV time. And if that's the case, how could they? They're not invested enough to care about her, whether she wins or loses. Why would they care? And then you have, of course, the more important thing that took place here is that it was Monsters in Metal 1, and they can start to transition themselves over or back over to top tier. So the alliance was just there as a placeholder. The debut in the ring meant nothing. And it was just to facilitate having a match. And that's the worst part. It's like she, not only did she debut, but she had to eat the loss too. Which, I mean, truthfully, she was the right person to get the loss. It's just the wrong time to do it. It was just the wrong time. So once the alliance served their purpose, they left out of the ring because, what else were they supposed to do? They are back where they belong. Back in the loser bracket. I hate that. But how foolish of me to think that a changing of the manager was somehow going to just turn their fortunes. I guess you fooled me, wow. So anyhow, Alexandra got onto the microphone and cut a promo. And she carries on about, hey, you see what we can do. And Monsters and Metals, the Freaks, and you need another title shot. Top tiers manages to somehow skate away through the rules, and I think we deserve another championship match, and the Freaks are out to play or whatever she said. I don't know. So there we have it. Like I said, this just was seemingly to facilitate a win for Monsters and Metals so they can go and re-challenge for the Trios Championships and eventually win them. As we know that they will eventually win them. But in any case, that was it. That was the show. You got it from top to bottom. I cannot say, and I just went through, I cannot say that it was a bad show. The narrative of it was not good, but what are you going to do? Right? What are you going to do? I don't expect WoW to be changing any of this at any given point. I just cannot imagine that in the 4 seasons that they've done it, that somehow they're just going to turn around like, you know what, maybe we need to change this. Maybe we should try to have some better continuity and things that make sense in the path of why this person is doing this and why this other person is doing that. Maybe we should go that route. Nope. I don't think any of that's happening. It makes me look so forward to the next episode. Speaking of the next episode, why don't we see what's coming up on the horizon for WoW? This next one. They have it listed as such, and I will read the following. Title,
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.